And so now I was doing this stuff. I was living with her, and she was by, and so we had a lot of crazy sex stuff, drug stuff, and then
Go on.
then wait, that comes the sad part.
Oh,
I
sorry.
got drafted,
Oh,
Oh,
so now
nice.
I got taken into the army,
You turned
and
five.
I had been a anti-Vietnam protester back in my Columbia days.
Tell
So
me.
now I'm in the army protesting against Vietnam. So I get beaten up, and my profile is such that my captain calls me in, and I'm still in. I got recycled into another unit of basic training at a different command station. So now my captain calls me in and says, "There's somebody with your exact profile who just committed suicide. Two things down. I don't want to have a suicide on my record, so I'm going to get you out of here. Just hang in for
wow.
another month while we do the paperwork." So I was put in as unable to adapt to military life. They put me in charge of the office because I was the only one who could read, write, type. I was in charge of faking there were PT tests that they had to give everybody, and I was told the officers had to be given the highest grades. So it's like the captain got the best scores, the lieutenants got the second best scores. I just made everything up. I got the cards organized, did all the things, and then they did process me out. Now I returned. Well, actually, I spent a brief stint in New York when I got out, and in New York, I sold haberdashery at Wallach's to try and get
What were
money to
those
go
two
to
words?
LA. And I
No
had no
haberdashery.
idea what haberdashery was,
Okay, me
but
either.
it turns out to be things like gloves, ties, accessories, and we got commission. The only thing you could get big commission on that was in our area was coats. So no matter what anyone came in for, I tried to sell them a coat. And I set the 1 week record for new people or for anybody or something. But now I had money and I went to LA.
The hottest day
So,
in New York, but you
Yeah.
look like you need a big coat.
yeah, well, that scarf would look really nice with our new line of coat,
There you go. Yeah.
So anyway, now I get to back to LA, and my old girlfriend is now living with a guy who's a porn photographer. So I sleep on the couch, and he's a nice guy, and we play chess a little bit and stuff. And I'm on the couch, and the first morning I'm back, this is after 2 months in the army and a week in New York, and let's say I haven't run into a whole lot of really desirable women, and he has a bunch of people coming in for a porn shoot the next morning. So there are like six girls, and this is softcore, pretty girl type stuff, not hardcore, the things you see now.
Penetration.
Right,
The
penetration.
things you see
Right.
now.
So now I'm chatting up one of the girls, and she, when she's not doing porn, works for the post office, and she doesn't quite understand how zip codes work. So I'm trying to explain. She wasn't the brightest light in the barrel, but I'm,
Zippers, she's okay with.
Brightest
Zip
light in the
codes.
barrel.
right. So now I'm and the girls, I would say there was one super beautiful, four pretty hot, and one or two not so hot. So I'm talking with one of the middle four group. It seems like we're hitting it off.
Playing the
And
odds.
Smart.
my ex girlfriend gets up and says, "Let's go to breakfast." And I said, "No, I'm not that hungry. I'm just going to hang out here." She says, "No, it's very important. I have to talk." So I said, "Okay, but we'll eat quick. We'll go somewhere and we'll eat quick." So we go out to breakfast, and she says, "Well, I really want to make it with the super beautiful girl, but I think she's straight. So I'm going to try and hitch the two of you up, and then you can talk her into the three-way." And I said, "Okay, for you, dear, I'll sacrifice myself. I can do it if I have to."
Oh, my arm hurts.
So,
All right.
we're getting a little far afield from poker, but but anyway.
I'm okay with this.
It's more poker than it is
Yeah,
poker.
poker. Poker. Right.
So now, um, they finish the shoot and we all go out to eat, and my girlfriend and her boyfriend, my ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend, this woman and I, and we kind of, again, we hit it off. But she has a boyfriend who's a rock musician, and we exchanged information. I don't even get this is way before cell phones.
How did you do it?
I don't even
Carrier
know.
Carry pigeon.
You
Yeah.
know, I don't even know what we did, but we exchanged names or something.
She
And
sketched you. Yeah.
she,
All right. Gotcha.
or maybe she gave me her home phone number. I didn't even have a home yet with a number. So now, to put this in perspective, let's see, I got back to LA on November 1st. This is now November 15th. I got back out of the Army November 1st, LA November 15th. Now I have my own place and it's Thanksgiving and I'm home and I've gotten a phone and the phone rings and it's this girl and she said, I hope it's okay for me to call you. Madeline, that's the old girlfriend, gave me your number. I said, sure, it's fine. What's going on? And she said, well, what are you doing? And I said, well, it's Thanksgiving and I'm at home alone. I'm a little depressed. What are you doing? And she said, I'm having a big fight with my boyfriend. Why don't I come over and cheer you up? I said, okay, that sounds good. So she came over. The next day she went home, got her suitcase and her dog and moved in. And the next week we had a little money and we decided to go to Vegas for the weekend. And when the drugs and money ran out, we got married. So that was my first marriage. Not amazingly, it didn't last.
Still would. Good entry. That's good.
Yeah, was Madeline mad you didn't hook her up?
Oh, well, Madeline was always pissed off. But whenever I was fighting with my wife, I would go back to Madeline and, we would go out partying or drinking or whatever. So it was, anyway. And then
Yeah.
we did stay together for a little over a year and then split up. And I was, as I say, doing more and more drugs by then. And I came back to, I think actually, now this is an interesting thing. You're never going to hear anyone say gambling saved them from addiction. But I think for me, gambling saved me from addiction, or at least games playing, because I found that my brain was so befuddled that if I couldn't win in a tiny poker game or count the cards in a bridge hand or something, it meant that I was doing too much. So I came back to New York and my mother said it looked like I'd gotten out of a concentration camp. I had lost a lot of weight and stuff. And then I kind of rehabbed myself on my own. I went back she got me a job at Harper and Row Publishing, now HarperCollins. And I was working there days. I went to NYU night school. I was also still playing backgammon and poker and whatever. And while I was at NYU, I was going in a BS MBA program. I took some statistics courses. I took a game theory course with one of I don't know how much you know about the history of game theory, but the original people who wrote the book on it were, oh yeah, my mind is turning to mush. But Morgenstern was the second one, and he gave the von Neumann and Morgenstern. And von Neumann was the genius, and he was the grunt work economics guy. He gave a course at NYU, so I took a course in game theory with one of the original founders of game theory.
Oh shit, that's cool.
Okay.
All right.
Now, and in the original book, he talks about poker. That was he talks about very simplistic bluffing situations, which we all calculated by hand for draw poker, for Gardena. If you're drawing one to a flush, let's say you're going to make it 20% of the time, what's the appropriate bluff ratio and how do you randomize it? And all those things were quote unquote cutting edge 50 years ago. So, okay, now backtracking to the Mayfair and to try to get us